What's the sweetest thing your pet has done? I can tell when my dog is dreaming when he starts to exhale heavily and when he lets out this whoop sound. I'll usually let him be, but on the off chance that I think that it's getting a little too intense and if the sound turns into a whimper, I'll wake him up. One night I was nearing the end of a dream at the point where you're kind of halfway between asleep and awake. I can't remember the details of the dream. All I know is that it was either a nightmare or just very stressful. As I was waking up I realized I was feeling something making repeated contact with my chest, and I opened my eyes to see my dog sitting over me batting his paw at me. Once I made eye contact with him he stopped, sat for a second, and then went back to his bed on the floor. I figure I must have been breathing irregularly or something, and he just thought that he needed to return the favor and get me out of my dream. The whoop sound might be your dog barking in his dream. My doggy does it all the time. You know how sometimes when you play with a dog, they miss the toy and either bash your hand with their teeth or nip you a bit? When my dog does that, he immediately stops playing, licks the hurt spot, and checks me all over for injuries. Mine does that too. One time he drew blood, puppy teeth, and was so upset, he licked my hand and followed me to the bathroom crying while I cleaned it up. My 14-year-old cat hates being touched and touching a person. She'll tolerate a single pet here and there, but most of the time she just likes to sit nearby and hang out. She likes people a lot and will follow me around, but she's just not a touchy-feely cat. Last year I visited my mother and brought my cat with me. Unfortunately, my mother's husband has always been verbally abusive. He decided to take his anger over something or other out on me during the visit, and reduced me to heaving sobs while my mother pretended nothing was happening. My cat heard me crying and ran into the room, jumped on my lap without hesitation, and began purring louder than I have ever heard her purr in my life while she needed my lap. She let me pet her as much as I wanted. She'd never done that before or since, but I'll never, ever forget how much that meant to me. That's fine. I actually wanted to cry at work anyway. One time I had a nosebleed and my dog got super scared. He kept trying to stop me from moving around and would run back and forth between me and my mother's door, crying and barking the whole time. When I got my nose to stop bleeding, he was all wiggles. I've been trying so hard not to comment on this thread, but this is too adorable. That imagery makes me so happy. He was all wiggles. My old cat used to follow me round the block to the corner shop and wait for me outside, then walk back with me. Also, when I moved away for university he would follow me down the road to the train station and cry at the gate when I left. It broke my heart. He made up for it by running to greet me when he heard me walking back down the street on my return. I miss that cat. The sound of a crying cat is one of the most painful ones for me. We had a fat pug and a sweet Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. When the sweet one died, the pug lined up his treats in a perfect row for a week following her death, and he loved his treats. Previously they never seemed to pay much attention to each other, but as her health went down he was very protective. My pug is the sweetest, most empathetic animal I have ever met. They're really freaking stupid but really smart at the same time. Once in a blue moon my cat will tuck me in by pulling the sheets up on my shoulders. Occasionally she'll pull the sheets down. So man, God giveth, and God taketh away. As a kid I had a cat that we loved to pet. Once while I was petting her and came close to her face, she pulled her head back because she had to sneeze and seemingly did not want to sneeze in my face. See, my cat will sense he has to sneeze and deliberately come over to sneeze in my face. A lot of the time at night I get restless legs. It's beyond frustrating and keeps me up. My dog, Lab, noticed this and started laying on my legs when it happens. The weight really helps and I can sleep. It's amazing to me that she figured it out all on her own. She's never been trained to do anything of the sort. Look for those weighted blankets, I hear they help. No matter how we tried to entice him, we couldn't get our golden retriever to come in the pool. One day my mom starts splashing around playing like she's drowning, saying help, and my dog jumped right in and tried to pull her out of the water. After that he discovered he loved the pool. Our dog hates water, but if she sees you go under the water she panics and swims out to rescue you. It's the only way we can get her to go for a swim. I'd just gotten back from doing the laundry one windy day and flopped down on the floor to watch TV with my husband. The wind blasted the side of the apartment and threw the door open. My husband and I screamed like little girls, and all 9 pounds of Cutest puffed up and charged the door, standing between it and us. He glared out the door, then goggled back at us like we must be idiots, and went back to his tree. Good job, cat. You saved us all. Cutest. Darth Meow strikes on Catline again. I was on the couch sick, and my dog was sitting there feeling sorry for me. Suddenly his ears pricked up in excitement. He knew what needed to be done. He raced off and returned with his favorite toy to help make me feel better. Good boy. My dog was 14 when I went off to university. When I went home for Thanksgiving, a few days early, I was able to sneak off to see my best friend the night I got in. When I got home around 1 AM I was greeted by the sight of my dog at the bottom of the stairs, and my mom telling me he had been watching the door for 2 hours, fighting falling asleep until I got home. Melted my heart. My dog parks herself at the top of the stairs an hour before it's time to go for a walk and stays there the entire time, making sure I don't escape. My roommate's dog wouldn't come out from under the table, so I pretended to cry while keeled over on the floor. He came out immediately to console me. He got clickbaited. I have 2 rats and one of them often hangs around on my desk when I play video games, and I frequently give him snacks which he eats behind my monitor. This one time he literally brought me the half of his snack and put it in my hand and walked off behind the monitor again. Sharing is caring. A dog I've regularly pet sit since he was a pup. He is convinced every living being on this planet is here to be his friend and play with him. At my old house, we came across a cane toad outside. He froze. I froze, hoping to distract him or get him past it without him trying to eat it. For those not familiar, they are poisonous. He looked at it, looked at me, then took off. He came racing back with a toy in his mouth and dropped it at the toad. He looked confused for a minute, then ran off. Got another toy and sure enough, gave it to the toad. He did this once more, then barked at it, playboying, then looking at me so confused. He met his first living creature who didn't play with him, and boy was he confused. No one believes me when I tell them about his bringing gifts to a toad to entice it to play. It was so cute. I can see that. I had a dog that went and grabbed a stick to play with the chickens when he first met them. Play bow and everything. He was puzzled when they just squawked and tottered away. No, silly dog. Chickens won't chase you for the stick. We put one of my dogs down about 4 months ago. He was only 4. From his cancer diagnosis to having to put him down was only a month. He went downhill so fast. It was really hard. I drank too much recently and came home and just cried. He licked my tears and then stayed with me all night. He usually sleeps with my brother and his wife. He knew I needed it. It was an usually self-loathing night. Dogs are very caring and social animals, and being able to comfort you probably meant just as much to him as it did to you. We fostered a kitten. They fought at first, but then I caught my cat giving the baby kitty a bath. But they became inseparable, and she was a great big sister for a while till the kitten went to her forever home. At first my boys hated that we foster kittens, but now the Siamese dads them. Since October we've only had orphans, and the little kittens look up to the older cats so much. I love that he takes them in and snuggles them and makes sure their ears are always clean. I just feel so sad for him when they move on. My oldest cat always knew I was pregnant before me or my husband knew. She just knew. She was never an affectionate cat. Never wanted to be held. When I was pregnant though, the cat was always right by my side, and her favorite place to lay ended up being my pregnant belly. After we brought each baby home, she had to be the first to check them out of the multiple cats that we own. My oldest daughter and her created this inseparable bond, and the oldest cat was always wherever she was. Even to this day she'll insist on keeping tabs on her. When it's 9 PM sharp, this cat will start meowing loudly and leading her to her bedroom as if to say, "Hey, kid, it's bedtime," and she sleeps with her every single night, keeping watch for any monsters seemingly. You can open that door at any hour in the night and she's wide awake just watching, keeping guard. She is the best. My first leave after joining the US Army marked the first time my dog had seen me in 4 months. When I left, I had a beard and long curly hair. When she first saw me, she kept her distance, as she didn't recognize me and couldn't get my scent. But the minute I squatted down and whistled at her like I've done her whole life, she barreled at me and was so happy to see me. I had always seen those homecoming videos of soldiers reuniting with their dogs, but never had I experienced such a thing. I don't know when I'll get to see her again, but I look forward to it. I have abusive parents. Every night they come home and will barge into my room to yell and beat me up in some way. It was this way for as long as I could remember, but then I got a dog and I guess she picked up on it all and would growl whenever my mom, who was the worst, came in. My mom is not a fan of animals in general, so she started to not push it with the dog around. It's been about a year now and my parents rarely to never beat me up now. I owe everything to my dog and I treat her like a queen. I'll never be able to repay my pup. 24/10 good doggo. We have 4 dogs, 2 Shih Tzus, a Pekingese, and an Australian Shepherd. We just recently got the Australian Shepherd and ever since we brought him home him and the youngest Shih Tzu have been hooked at the hip. When they sleep together. They will not sleep away from each other. I've never seen 2 dogs love each other as much as they do. It's the sweetest thing. My puppy is like this with one of my parents' dogs. When we watch their dogs at our house my puppy always uses the other dog as a pillow or lays on top of her entirely. Sometimes vice versa. My parents picked some tomatoes from the garden and brought them inside. The next day there were slightly bruised tomatoes outside the back door. My parents saw my sister and I did it and got upset with us for playing with their vegetable garden. But after a bit of arguing we figured out it was our dog. He must have saw my parents picking tomatoes and wanted to help. TLDR, our dog picked tomatoes for us. This just became my most upvoted comment, thanks Reddit and Ramu. My dog's name. I have trained my dog to collect passion fruit for me. I don't like reaching through the vine to get the ripe one, so I send her in instead. Hopefully she doesn't end up getting a taste for them. We haven't had a single strawberry in years because she gets to them first. My parents' cat. Well, she was my cat first. Then I gave her to them used to babysit me. I was a teenager, but if she saw me by myself outside she'd go and frantically tell my mother I was in danger. She'd go and frantically tell Filch I was out of bed. I have several. LOL. My orange cat used to sleep wrapped around my head and would lick my face to wake me up when my alarm went off. It was still sweet even when he started biting my face. Gently, if I was responding too slowly. He doesn't sleep with me anymore though because my other cat likes to sleep right next to me and they don't like each other. My grey cat, who I had raised, will come and sit with me when I'm sad or when I'm sick and sleeps next to me every night. When my grey cat was born, he was the only kitten and it was his mother's first litter. She didn't want him, so we had to force her to feed him and I basically hand raised him. We were keeping his father away from him because we had heard a lot of horror stories about male cats killing kittens. We finally decided to let the father have supervised visits with the little week-old baby cat, because he was obsessed with trying to get into the room. My husband and I sat there and watched him to make sure he didn't hurt the kitten. But all he did was walk up and start grooming him. He would lick his belly to help him go to the bathroom, and clean him up, and sleep curled up around him. He did everything parental but feeding him. When we got a group of foster kittens the same age as his son, because we had promised kittens to a lot of people, so we were helping everyone LOL. He took them in like they were his, and groomed them and taught them how to be cats. Our cat had another litter a year later. They were an accidental litter, and they didn't belong to the dad. I assumed he was going to be angry about them because they didn't smell like him or something, but he stepped up to be a parent to those two also. He basically thinks that anything smaller than him is his child. We got a 3-week-old tripod kitten who had been in some kind of accident or something. No one knows. They found her with a missing foot, who had exposed bone and was super angry all the time and hated everything. She also became his kid. He still grooms all of these cats even though his son is about to turn 6 and the 2 younger ones just turned 5 and tripod cat turns 5 soon. There is a cat that thinks she lives at our house outside, so I feed her every time that she shows up. He sits at the window by the door and watches her, and if any of the other cats try to get too close to him, he'll smack at them, because that's his freaking kid, not theirs. Basically, he's the best dad. Yay cat dad. My childhood dog lived to 14 and only died in September. She loved being picked up and held like a baby. She'd often fall asleep like that. When I would come home from college, I would sleep on the couch every night because she would sleep in the crook of my arm. This wasn't a particularly special moment at the time. I was up at 1 AM watching Family Guy and she wandered over to the couch where I was lying down. She's blind and deaf at that point, so we kinda just picked her up and carried her to wherever she needed to be if she seemed confused. Anyway, I picked her up and set her on my chest. She was all of 10 lbs. And she got comfortable and did that big long sigh that dogs do when they get comfortable. She nuzzled her head right under my chin, stretched her little leggies and fell asleep on me. She did this dozens of times before, but in that moment I really felt how much she loved me. She was never a dog that played fetch or a dog that did any exciting tricks, but she'd snuggle you like you were the last person on earth, and by God, I might have well been, because I felt like the luckiest girl in the world to have a dog so loving. She was the best girl and I loved her so much, and putting her down was the hardest thing I've ever had to do, and the pain immediately after was insurmountable. But it's gotten less and less over time, and now I can write about her like I just saw her yesterday and not feel that deep ache in my chest and that knot in my throat. I miss her so much, and I'd do it all over just to love her again, but it was her time to go and I know I'll see her again. Somewhere, there is a special puppy looking to adopt the perfect human when the time is right. I hope you two find each other. I had a cat that was huge, fat, and lazy. He would literally sleep 22 hours a day. One day, he was frantically begging me for food and ignored his usual treats until I brought out a fairly large hot dog, which he grabbed and ran outside with. After a couple of days of this, I watched where he went, and it turns out he was bringing food to a stray cat and her kitten. She likes kisses on her forehead and head boops. She likes to get on the dresser and kind of turn her head towards you. I give kisses. Boyfriend gives head boops with his forehead. For my own amusement, I am going to imagine you have a Great Dane. When my mother would get mad at me and yell, my elderly tabby would get in between us and angry yowl back at her. A couple of times when I really deserved it, my mother still had to stop because she was trying really hard not to laugh. The cat would then stick close to me and glare like a goddamn queen if my mother was nearby. She loved my father though and would be conspicuously absent when he was telling me off. Still miss her and even made a character for her in my D&D game too. For context, there are enough pets in my house to qualify us as a small petting zoo. Once upon a time, our mini potbelly pig was an indoor-outdoor pet. She's a little ornery, doesn't much like little nippy canines zooming all around her, but loves cuddles all the same. Well, we'd just gotten a Chihuahua puppy around this time, and to this day he likes to play with everyone and everything, including animals 10 times his size. Our pig was snoozing on her side next to the back door, having fallen asleep waiting for someone to let her out. In comes the Chihuahua. He noses her a couple times, then decides she looks like a nice pillow. He curled up right there on top of her belly and they stayed there like that for a solid 10 minutes. If I think of it later, I might see if my mom still has the picture. It's the most adorable thing ever. Honestly, you should be banned from Reddit permanently for telling that story without posting a picture. I was bedridden for about 6 weeks, only limited movement. This was in spring, just when the weather warmed up. My cat didn't like the cold but also didn't like staying in the house all winter. So normally as soon as the weather warmed up, he'd spend most of his time outside, sometimes only coming in for meals. But he gave all that up to lay beside me every day I was bedridden. He'd spend hour after hour with me lying quietly next to me. He did that until I was better. He loved me more than he loved getting to enjoy the outside. My mastiff heard something that he didn't recognize. Every time I moved, he would make sure he moved with me facing towards the noise to protect me. Love my Winston. Not so much for me, but when my girlfriend was crying a lot, my dog cuddled up with her to get her to stop. I'm assuming, cause he never really did that before. Could he tell that I cared about another human and therefore compelled to care for her too? Also, when I was a child, my mom couldn't spank me because my dog wouldn't let her. Bless you, Lacey. I didn't deserve your kindness. R.I.P. My boyfriend's family dog barks at strangers frequently, but recently he's stopped barking at me. I suspect it's because I'm so close to BF all the time. Makes me feel special. 3. Whenever I had a bad day in high school and was crying, one of my dogs would get up onto the sofa and put her front paws over the back and watch me. When I eventually came over and sat with her, she would deliberately fall back into my lap and would stay there until I felt better. It always felt like she was hugging me the way she lay across my whole body like that. There's no treatment for sadness like hugging 100 pounds of fluff, and she knew it. Had a terrible week at work, and this one particular day my mental state was even worse. Got home when it was dark, didn't turn on any lights, curled up in a ball on my bed. I was in a state where I was that far gone I couldn't even cry. My cat jumped up and curled up next to me. He normally only joins me after I've already fallen asleep and I wake up with him there, but that day I guess he knew I needed to not be alone. Stayed that way for a few hours until I got up. My little guardian. As I was growing up I started to develop major depressive disorder. I would lay in bed for hours and not move. I had a chihuahua who would stay in bed with me on my bad days. One day I was laying in bed all day, on and off crying. The only time I left my bed was to let her go outside and to feed her. After I fed her I went straight back to my room. A few minutes later she came back and brought me her food from her bowl and kept bringing me more, forming a pile on my bed. I didn't know what she was doing and became annoyed and turned over. Then she slowly brought the pile next to my face. I realized she was trying to get me to eat. Then I came to the realization that I hadn't eaten. Both of my parents worked a lot so she took care of me in a way I don't think I would have made it without her. That's incredible. This is gonna sound simple but it really touched me. I had what may have been one of the worst days of my life. One of those days when everything just seemed to pile on. I got home and as I pulled into the driveway I broke down. Upon trying to get in the house I stubbed my toe, dropped the food I picked up on the way home and slipped on it and hit my head. I was a half second from throwing my phone and punching walls when I felt a soft furry presence on my leg. My dog was rubbing his head against me as if to say, hey there, I'm here for you, don't be sad. I went from intense anger and sadness to hugging him and it turned it all around. I swear he knew and wanted to make me feel better. This was a year ago and I'm tearing up just thinking about it. I'm gonna go give him a special treat, lol. Pretty much saved my life. When I was a teenager I struggled a lot with depression. One night I got really drunk and the sadness just overwhelmed me. Aside from drugs and drinking, another thing I would do is self-harm to cope. I sat on my bed drunk, crying, and bleeding from my forearm. I thought about just ending it then and slitting my wrist. That's when Snoopy hopped up on the bed and put his head on my lap. I realized then that as much as I hated myself, my love for him was more powerful. I just couldn't do that to him or my parents and friends. I decided the next day that I would talk to my parents and try to get some help. A few years of therapy was able to do so much for me and help me turn things around, and I owe it to him just simply being there for me. I have been in a similar sort of dark place. The knowledge that my dog would be waiting for me to come home is enough. She wouldn't understand that I wasn't coming and would be sat by the door waiting. I couldn't do that to her. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.